Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son break down all things Bears, from Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns. I'm your host, Dylan Weaver, and I'm joined here with my dad. Well, Dad, week one is officially in the books. And, for all the offseason hype of things are going to be different, it still ended in the same results with another disappointing Bears loss. I will let you jump right into it first with your initial thoughts. Just give me your breakdown of the game, things that come straight to your mind. I know it's about 24 hours now since that game, so a lot has settled in, but why don't you just give me your initial thoughts?
I'm gonna start the show with a quote, right? I think it's only appropriate for this quote, but everyone knows this quote: "Teamwork makes the dream work." I'll credit that to John C. Maxwell, the author of this quote. But no one ever looks beyond that beginning part of it, and basically what it says is teamwork makes the dream work, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. And there is so much we can talk about in this game. So much we can talk about good. There was a lot of good in there. I saw some things I liked. But the bad, I mean, I want to start. I want to start with the kicker. You look at it. I know you're the stat master and statistician over there is going to drop me some high percentages on field goal completions and where he's at. But you think about it when the game's on the line. We look at last year and the opportunities we had with the blocked field goal attempts. We had the preseason game where we missed a field goal. And then yesterday, we could have 3 extra points. We could have been tied up. Granted, there's a lot of woulda, shoulda, couldas that could have been happening, but he missed a field goal yesterday. And then to top it off, when every second mattered at the very end for us to, try to come from behind there, doesn't have enough leg to kick it through the end zone. So that's where I'll start. I'm curious on your opinion on that. Like I said, I know you're going to give me some statistics because you love them. Um, but lordy mercy, why is it like Cody Parkey all over again?
Yeah, I don't know if it's on Cody Parkey quite level, but I do definitely agree with the special teams. Out of the three units being special teams, defense, and offense, I do think special teams was the biggest letdown or a big part of this game that, ultimately backfired on us in the end. And there usually, there's a special teams or play or two where you can look back and be like, oh, this went this way. But there was more than just a couple of special teams plays that, just weren't good enough for week one. And with a division rival, as close as the game ended up being, these are moments that, you can look back on and you kind of sit there shaking your head. I'll kind of just break it down for you. I have a couple things written down when it comes to the special teams. It all started with the missed field goal. Um, Bears were up 17-6 at the time. This was the very first play of the fourth quarter, coming off that commercial break, a 50-yard attempt from Cairo Santos, and it is as soon as the ball was kicked up in the air, you can tell it was already going to be one of those nail biters where it might barely sneak in or it's just going to miss on the outside. And that ball did end up going a little bit to the right and just missed getting inside that post. And that would have taken the score 20-6. On top of that, we would have got a kickoff. They would have, probably had a decent return to the 25 or 30, but they got to go 70 yards to get a touchdown. At this point, they had no momentum in their favor. Everything was kind of drying out. And like I said, the fourth quarter just starts. So the pressure was really going to be on them. But Cairo comes up there, misses a field goal. They get the ball right, at midfield pretty much. And at that point they're down by 9 points. But if you really look back at it when watching the game, it felt like we were up by 2 to 3 possession game, but the score only reflected a 9 point lead. And that's where you can kind of start feeling the momentum shift. And you know I do just need to get something off my chest before we dive deeper into offense, defense, and I have more special teams that I'd like to talk about. But I'm not one ever to blame a game on the refs. I don't really like doing that because at the end of the day, they're going to make, bad calls. It happens. It usually is a fair amount to each side. It's just the way the game falls. They're refs, they're humans. They make mistakes as well. But there was several calls in this game, and they're not just first down calls where you got three more downs after to capitalize off. I mean, these are third and fourth down plays that ultimately were, I mean, even put the Bears bias away that we may have or Bears fans may have, the own announcers on the TV were, they were sitting there. I don't see how that was called. I don't see anything there. And specifically off, that missed field goal. This is where it all started. Where what made it a 50-yard field goal in the first place. We are on. I want to say we were on the 22-yard line of the Vikings, about to be in the red zone. It is 1st and 10. Caleb drops back, goes through his progressions, hits Swift in the flat. Swift catches the ball, takes it for about, I believe it was a 10 or 11-yard gain, gets the first down, and now we are on Minnesota's 9-yard line. All of a sudden, too, a little bit later, you see after the catch, a flag on the field. And the announcers already at the time didn't know, where that flag might be going, what it was for. It turns out to be a Darnell Wright hold. And this is probably the most phantom call of the game. It's all circulating all over Twitter, not just from Bears fans, from national media. And all Darnell Wright does is chop the defender's hands down, and he falls face first. And I mean, it is about as good of a textbook block as there is. And there's a holding flag that negates that drive, which ultimately backs him up now. Now it is 1st and 20. Next play was one of Caleb Williams' misses where Cole Kmet was running that post to the middle of the field, and Caleb led him a little bit too far, went off his fingertips as he was trying to dive for it. Now we're 2nd and 20. Next play, pocket collapse. Caleb tries making a play. Right as he's escaping, he trips over his own lineman. As he's falling to the ground, he tries to throw the ball to get it back to the line of scrimmage. Ultimately ends up in an intentional grounding because that ball didn't make it back to the line of scrimmage. Now we're looking at a 3rd and 30 because you don't get that down back. At this point now, we're about at the 50-yard line at midfield. When we originally started, we were on the 20-yard line. And then that's what led to that 50-yard field goal. But there was just several calls throughout the game. Another one, big one, the Tyreek Stevenson one, where they called the PI on him. First off, if you do want to throw a flag on that, you can't throw a PI flag unless the ball's already released the quarterback's hands and then that contact happens. That's when the pass interference call can be thrown. Instead, the correct call should have been illegal hands, which instead of that it was about a 20 to 25-yard penalty because pass interference is where the foul occurred. It should have been illegal touching, and it would have been a 5-yard penalty. Granted, I don't even think it was a penalty at all. The defender clearly goes to break inside, loses his footing, and trips on his own. Tyreek Stevenson, yeah, he had a hand like kind of guiding on his back where he was going, but it wasn't holding him, wasn't pushing him. That was a 3rd down play that should have been 4th down. And not only, like I said, it should have been a 5-yard illegal touching call. It was a pass interference call when all that slipping and touching happened before the ball was released. There was just quite a bit of, questionable calls that, felt like as a fan watching the game, the Bears were getting the bad side of it. And, there's games like that. And this is why I do say I don't like to blame fans because at the end of the day, good teams find a way to prevail those penalties and still go out there and win a game. But I feel like that was the main turning point in the game, and that's kind of why I wanted to start with the special teams because this is kind of what sparked everything, and that's where you felt that bench, that energy kind of flip into Minnesota's favor, especially too if you go back and watch the game when Cairo missed that field goal, you literally saw the whole Minnesota Vikings bench go from, pouting their heads, kind of what are we going to do to everyone shot up and they're like, wow, we're still in this game somehow even after, those first 3 quarters. JJ McCarthy, the Vikings, they had nothing going.
You
Outside
you
of their defense keeping them in, they had nothing going.
you lead me into another great point here because we started with the kicker. You talked about the missed field goal and something. I get the refs, right? Refs are refs. That guy was a first year official. He's a rookie as well in that role. He's going to have opportunities. But I want to bring you back to a Ben Johnson quote since we have been all about Ben Johnson for 6 episodes on here and his leadership as well as his high-powered offense and his history with it. But I remember, when he first came into Hallis Hall, he stands there in front of all the administrative individuals and kind of gives this ever famous quote that he has so far about encouraging players to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Well, you know what, Cairo, if I'm Ben Johnson, get uncomfortable because I just fired you. I don't need people on the team, captains on the team, mind you, because that's what he is as a captain, who can't do his job not once but twice throughout a game that's very important against a rookie QB first year playing. I guess I shouldn't say rookie QB. It's his second year, but he sat out his whole first year. But if Ben Johnson's a man of his word and he's really about accountability, his facial expressions during the game did not match his interview this afternoon with, I believe it was Jeff Joniak who had the opportunity to interview him today on Zoom. Um, and he was all puppy dogs and rainbows when he was interviewing with him about how everyone did a great job and everyone worked really hard. Um, but the results don't show that. And you're going to probably say, or people listening are going to say, "Hey, it's the first game. Calm down. Everything's okay." Guess what? I don't got patience. But my patience are 40 years in the making since the last time we won a Super Bowl, and that should be the whole city of Chicago right now and every Bears fan out there. Patience are gone. We got a generational talent QB at the number one overall draft pick, who for 10 for 10, right? Start the game off 10 for 10, scripted drive down the field, runs it in for a touchdown. But I'm sure we'll get to this a little later on in the cast. But he missed a lot of down the field throws, that the camera didn't show. There's like 15 to 20 different cameras that broadcast a whole video or a whole video game, a whole football game. They only had to use one because everything was 5 to 10 yards in front of them. We never had to use the down the field angle. The only time we did is, when JJ McCarthy's throwing that dime to Aaron Jones in the end zone when he goes for that deep ball. So that's kind of my thing on Ben Johnson. I know there's a lot more to talk about, but that just kind of fires me up. I mean, you gotta hold people accountable, and I didn't hear any accountability today after that performance, as well from Caleb. I'm not sure if you're ready to jump to that, if you want to go D line or O line or where the everything's going here, but I
Yeah,
look at
let's save the offensive side for the end. Let's just tease our viewers a little bit, let them hang around for the good stuff at the end. I want to still stay with special teams. I only gave that 1 point, but there's several others that I want to kind of jump to, where I thought it was just a huge letdown throughout the game. Um, After that missed field goal, same in the fourth quarter, we're punting at our own 43-yard line. The punt is blocked by the Vikings. The punt only ends up going 25 yards. Another short field, pretty much, for the Vikings, where they get 10 yards and they're ready on our side of the field. Just something that can't happen. I mean, it's game one, and in a crucial game at this point, the score I believe is now 17-12, and we're over here, punting the ball to try to pin them deep. We drove to about the midfield. Like I said, we're punting from our own 43. This is a perfect time to flip the field again, make them drive the whole football field, and get this, give ourselves a chance to put us in better field possession. Yes, the pressure's still kind of on us. And here we go. Another blocked field goal, another huge momentum created by Minnesota special teams. Um, Granted, the missed field goal doesn't really go into, Minnesota special team. It really just has to do with Cairo making the field goal. But a blocked punt. I'll also go to probably the biggest point of the game when it comes to special teams in the fourth quarter. It's 27-24. There's 2 minutes and 2 seconds on the clock. The kickoff needs to go either two ways. You either kick it out of bounds and give them the penalty, let them accept the penalty and start at the 40-yard line, because at that point it doesn't matter. You can't let them get a first down to get the ball back. So you can kick it out of bounds and take the flag and let them have the ball at the 40-yard line. Or two, you kick the ball out of the back of the end zone and do not let it be returnable, because if it is, there goes your 2-minute warning that you need on that drive, because the Bears only had one timeout at the time. This was all planned. Ben Johnson did address this after the game, that is what the plan was, and that's what Cairo was informed to do. And Cairo, I'm assuming if Ben's saying that, Cairo knew he had to kick it out, but he just couldn't get it there, which it's really concerning, because we do know his leg power. It's a little weak, but I really wanted to go back before this episode and search how many kicks on the kickoff last year Cairo kicked through the end zone. It's
Mhm.
really hard to find that stat out there. But I know he did it several times, and I'm not saying it was a fluke. He did it once, he did it here, he did it there, because every team last year kicked the ball out of the end zone because they're like, oh, it's only the 30-yard line. This year they're having more kick it in because it comes up to the 35, which that 5 yards is a big difference. I just don't get how Cairo doesn't get that ball out of the back of the end zone, especially, you have a chance here to redeem yourself. You miss a field goal for 50 yards, which in the NFL, yeah, it's not a gimme, but it's an NFL. It should be makeable field goal. And, props to you, Cairo. Last year, you were 8 for 9 in 50-yard plus field goals. Well, now you're 0-1 to start the season. This better be the only one you miss all season, because these division games and these big games, when they're coming down to the wire, these are plays that you can come back and look at where it haunts you. And especially as much as our offense was kind of stalling out in the middle of the game, we needed this kick to go in. We needed it, and it's just another boost of momentum that went in their favor. And I'm more mad at him not being able to kick the ball out of bounds. At least give your offense a chance to get down and march down the field, because as you saw, we did make them go 3-and-out and punt the ball back to us. The difference was we had 16 seconds instead of about of a minute and 6 seconds. That is a minute and 6 seconds is totally doable to go drive 30 yards and another chance. Kyra, go redeem yourself, make the field goal to send this game into overtime.
Would you
Um,
trust him?
yeah, I trust him.
You
The
missed the
thing,
field goal, then he
I,
can't kick it out of the end
yeah,
zone.
I get it, but a good tell to that from last year is the blocked field goal that happened against the Packers, week 18. He gets another chance at it, and what does he do? He walks the game off. And as I said, he was 8 for 9 last year in 50 plus. It's just frustrating that this one came in such a crucial game. The one thing about Cairo is he is accurate, and I know that's kind of sounds not correct considering that missed field goal he had at 50 yards, but he is an accurate kicker, but his leg is the problem, the distance part of it, where, there's a lot of kickers now that are getting easily into that 60 range pretty comfortably, and
We
he's
seen a
around
70
that
yarder in the
50.
preseason.
He's around that 50 to 55 yarder. And the thing that was really discouraging about it too, I'd have to look back and see if the weather played anything into it. But the thing is, I don't know if you remembered in preseason, Cairo kicked I think it was like a 56, a 57 yarder in one of the preseason games this year. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow. And it was right down the middle. I'm like, that's encouraging, because last year, anything around that 55, it would barely creak over the crossbar. But that 56, I can't remember if it's 56 or 57, but it could probably make it from about 62. I was like, okay, maybe he's done some workouts in the offseason, corrected his technique, got a little bit more oomph in his power and his kick. But, ultimately, whatever happened on that, the hold looked good. Everything looked good. It looked like he just pushed it a little bit to the right. And, it's unfortunate, because looking back on it now, those 3 points could have came in handy, and any points, left out in the field it hurts. Um, but and I'll touch on one last thing on special teams before we move on. With Devin Duvernay, I just think he averaged 9.3 yards per punt return yesterday. 4 punt returns for 37 yards. And it just was, you know, not only that, 2 out of those 4, he bobbled the ball where he did a little double catch. And if that punter, if they get a little bit better coverage and they're right there to hit him, I mean, those are loose ball fumbles easily with him bobble catching the ball. The first one, I think it was the very first one of the game, it literally went through his hands and almost went on the ground in between his legs, but he re-corralled it before it could touch the ground. Um, Put Luther Burden back there, man. The guy gets one chance to return a kick. The Minnesota Vikings kind of make the Cairo mistake and kick it to us with 5 seconds left and give Luther Burden a chance to return it. And what does he do? He returns it for 44 yards to the 50-yard line. Um, let's let our playmakers, that we drafted at high picks go out there and be able to make a chance and make plays. I understand Devin Duvernay's, a former multiple time Pro Bowler, but at the same time, I feel like we got to get a way to get Luther involved with his speed and just his dynamic vision with having the ball. He gives you those. I don't mean to say this, but he does give you those flashbacks of Devin Hester with just that he catches that ball and he goes. There's no second hesitation. It's he sees it and he's going to hit it. I felt like with Duvernay, there was a lot of dancing, trying to make people miss and then go. When let's just go, let's just hit it and go. Um, but I think that's enough on special teams. But I will say, out of the 3 units, even as bad as the offense did play in the second half, I do think that was my biggest letdown out of the 3 phases of the game, just because it was multiple instances. Like I'd say, yeah, you got a missed field goal at 50 yards. That's makeable in the NFL. The blocked punt is another thing. And then on top of it, the cherry on top, not kicking the ball simply out of bounds.
How many was it?
That was 3.
I got 14 incomplete passes at a 60% completion rate.
Okay,
More
okay,
reason.
okay, and we'll get to that later on. And just to counter you, yeah, there was definitely missed throws by Caleb, 100%. But that first half of the game, the offense was playing good. They were moving down the ball down the field. Ultimately, we'll get to that too. The false starts and the holding calls is what took him out of more points in positions. But the special teams, it was bad all over the place. And I was just covering our special teams. The Vikings, every punt return, I think their punt return, I just looked it up, had 19. He had 10 more average yards per return. That's terrible coverage. That's either Torrey Taylor out kicking the coverage or we're not getting down there fast enough and we're getting held up on blocks to not be able to cover it. Same thing on the kick return. It felt like almost every kick return, they were bringing it back to about the 30, 35-yard line, where most of ours were 20, 25. That's a problem. I think special teams, it's hidden yardage in a game with special teams that a lot of people just think, it's special teams. It doesn't matter. But those 3 plays alone of the missed field goal, the blocked punt, and then on top of it, not kicking the ball out of bounds, which you should easily be able to do as an NFL kicker, is kick the ball out of bounds if that's what you're told to do. And better yet, hey, Cairo Santos, if you really don't think you have a 100% chance of kicking it out of bounds to the back of the end zone, kick the ball out of bounds and take the fucking penalty. It's ridiculous. It is. The Bears did their job and got a 3-and-out. The defense, this is a perfect time to transition right into the defense. I'll let you give your thoughts. I got the analytics over here with the defense, but give me your initial thoughts on the defense. I thought they were by far the shining part of the game by a long shot, and it
For
wasn't even
3
close.
for 3 quarters, the defense was phenomenal, especially given the, laundry list of individuals on the, inactive list, and we're not talking about, anybody on the inactive list. We're talking about Jalen Johnson, arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league. So with that going into the game, as we had talked about yesterday, I felt real confident in our D line. I thought if we have them all together, you know, you hang out with 9 people that are successful, the 10th one's going to be successful. And I think we saw that on the D line yesterday. The pressure I saw in those first 3 quarters was remarkable given the circumstances of who was out of the game. You go into the linebacker situation. I think they did a good job. Granted, Sewell got beat on that one running back on a linebacker. It was the right matchup for McCarthy to throw to. Um, it is what it is, right? I mean, that's the way the football game's played. And then you look at the secondary. Right,
Had
pick
the biggest
six.
play of the game.
Pick 6, right? Practice squad player last year. We pick him up. We got our main guy out. We got to fill in the gaps. As they say, next man up. He comes in. He's covering JJ well. He's not getting the ball's not down there. I mean, through the first half, he only had one reception for 0 yards, I believe. But then he comes back in the second and pick six, takes it all the way down the field, and you're like, holy cow, what a blessing to have, that. So I think the defense did a great job for 3 quarters. Now you get to the 4th quarter, they give up 177 yards and 21 points. It could be called uninspired football. If the special teams isn't doing good, the offense isn't doing good, and the offense is going, our offense started going 3 and out. We weren't moving the ball. We were getting penalties, the false starts, and we'll get to all that. But then it becomes uninspired football, right? I think they thought, they were doing the best they could do to keep the team in the game, and the other 2 phases weren't holding up their end of the deal to keep it going. And I think they got tired, right? I mean, you're talking probably people who are not conditioned to play full games, with some of those backups that we had in there. But overall, I love that defense. Montez Sweat. You look at the grades; they weren't good for him. But you look on the other side with Adeo. Wow, came out of nowhere, right? A lot of controversy about him in the preseason and the off season. uh, but he woke up, he got out of bed that day, he put on his uniform, and he said, "I'm here to play," and he played. We got the pressure on him. We have 3 sacks overall as a defense, that's really good, and the pressure was phenomenal. Gervon Dexter in there, looking good, motor kept going, never saw his legs moving. Um, so I'm very pleased with the defense, especially, and maybe that's because my expectations weren't high. Maybe going into the game, I was worried about the defense. The main players weren't in there, and I was just hoping for them to do the best they could to not let us lose. And unfortunately, after 3 quarters of play, you throw up 3 touchdowns, which I'm sure you have that stat on. JJ McCarthy's the only quarterback to do that in his opening debut, I think, other than Joe Montana. Um, I mean, made him look like an all-star. I mean, he's probably Pro Bowl. I think they already measured him for his gold jacket after that game.
You're,
But the
you're,
defense did phenomenal. I mean, and the funny thing too, that I wanted to bring this up. I know we're talking about the defense, but I want to talk about JJ for a second. The scouting reports out of college was he wasn't a thrower, right? He hands the ball off. They had um, the running back there that was running the ball all the time, and it was, Jim Harbaugh and his running offense. And here this kid comes out once he gets calm, right? He calmed down, got the jitters out. He's throwing dimes down the field and looking good doing it. But we'll go back to the defense. I'll hear your take on it. But my take is defense did a great job for 3 quarters. Unfortunately, the game goes for 4 quarters, and they just couldn't seal the deal.
Yeah, I mean, just on the JJ McCarthy thing, I'll add to that real quick. Props to him. This isn't the JJ McCarthy or Minnesota Vikings show, but when it did matter, he went down there and delivered a win for his team. Props to him. But I will push back a little bit on, you're saying, the reports coming out where, he can't really throw. Um, he did that stat line is exactly what he did in college. 20 passing attempts on the game, 13 completions, 130 yards. Yes, the 4th quarter he was electric, but I think people need to slow the roll. I
He
get
got
it.
the W.
I get it. He got the W and he went out there and did it. Um, but at the same time, I remember, the funny thing is JJ McCarthy's stat line, kind of is what Caleb Williams was week 1 last year in his rookie year against the Titans. And, people were clowning him, this, that, and the other. I know our defense was a big part of that game, but so was the Vikings in this game. I think obviously he shined to the moment in the 4th quarter when it mattered. Um, it really did kind of remind me of Caleb a little bit in his rookie year because that how JJ started the game is how Caleb would start all games last year. It was always really rocky, and as the game progressed, Caleb that's when Caleb kept getting better. Last year, Caleb Williams was a fourth quarter magician. That's when he usually came alive, and you're like, where was this the whole game? And just this first game, seeing it go in there and it started off great, you're like, wow, let's keep this up. And it kind of, like I said, after that first drive, it was non-existent all the way until that last drive, or the second to last drive, I should say, where they scored again a touchdown. But everything between then was not good. But like I said, we'll save that for the end. But my thoughts on the defense, like you said, going into the game, I remember we were talking about it. We were both nervous. We did talk about it on our pregame show, and I did tell you, I was like, if Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are out, the good thing about it is the people that are going to be playing tonight are the people that have been playing the whole training camp because, Kyler and not necessarily Kyler, but Jalen Johnson's been out the whole training camp, and Nashawn Wright's been filling in, battling with Tyreek Stevenson for that cornerback two spot. So I did still have confidence, but it was still uneasy knowing Justin Jefferson's going to be, on the other side of the ball, which props to Tyreek and Nashawn Wright. Justin Jefferson, 4 catches, 44 yards. Yes, he did have a touchdown, but it's Justin Jefferson. 44 yards. If you would have told me before the game, hey, Justin Jefferson's going to have 4 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown, I would have said, okay, go ahead, let him have it. Like they played great. And same thing like you said, the D line going into this game, that was them and Braxton Jones were our question marks. We're like, we don't know. These are our concerns, and we don't know what's going to happen. And Montez Sweat, like you said, kind of was a little quiet. There was a couple times though he was the one pushing it to get him to roll out, and that's where our other D linemen were. So I still think Montez Sweat had a good game. Obviously, didn't have that sack that that's the big stat for the D lineman, but I think he caused a lot of other pressure to help out his teammates. And like you said, Dio Adangbo, I mean, we paid him the money, and if that's how he's going to play, he earned it. He earned every penny of it because I felt like every play, especially in that first half, was every key play was Dio Adangbo getting pressure, Dio Adangbo with the sack. Dio Adangbo, like there was like 2 or 3 plays yesterday where
I think
JJ
he even
McCarthy,
deflected a ball too, didn't
that's what
he?
I was saying. There was
Yeah,
3 plays yesterday where JJ McCarthy was in his windup, and Dial got a hand on it and almost strip sacked him multiple times.
yeah.
So, I will put a little, quotations in there. He was going against the backup left tackle, but still, he went out there and did his job. You can't ask for anything more. And that's what he should be doing against the backup. It should look like that. And it's very encouraging. And I know, like you said, the defense definitely let up on the fourth quarter, but kind of like you hinted at, I believe that's due to the offense going 3 and out. You're not giving, this is what we saw a lot last year when the offense couldn't get going. When you're 3 and out, you're giving your defense about 2 minutes to go catch their breath and get back on the field and go do it again. And they have that stamina to do it for, a couple of times. But when it's 5, 6 times in a row, it starts that wear and tear starts getting that fatigue on you. And that's where complementary football comes in. The offense needs to help out. If you're not going to go down there and score points, at least drive that ball down the field and make it, an extended drive for 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it may be. So your defense can get that rest they need to go back there and, make a play. And not only on top of that, kind of like we were talking about with the special teams and the offense, with the 3 and outs, you're giving them good field position. So you're giving the defense like, hey, here you got a chance. You can give up about 1 or 2, bad plays in here, and next thing you know, they're in the red zone. I mean, it. The offense let them down. The defense, if as long as the offense was driving a little bit and extending those drives, I think we would have saw that same the first, second, and third quarter defense we saw continue into the fourth quarter. So I'm not going to harp on them too much on that, especially like you said, no Kyler Gordon, no Jalen Johnson, and no TJ Edwards. That this defense, if there's one thing to be positive on, and Bears fans we're pretty positive every year on it, and they're the light to our team. But this defense is going to be really good, especially when we get our full starters out there. I'm really excited about this defense and Dennis Allen. I loved what he did. There was a couple times I remember watching and we saw so many guys lined up on the line and we're like, it would be key third downs. We're like, wait, there's 3 receivers over there and we only got 1 cornerback over there. Next thing you know, he's blitzing over here, guys dropping back over here. It was beautiful. I'm super pleased with the defense. I did have a couple of, you mentioned the pick six, which I had written down, but at the time it was still 10-6. It was, the Bears offense received the ball, went 3 and out, punted it to the Vikings. They're driving down the field. They get in our territory. The momentum already feels like it's shifting the Vikings. And oh no, here comes Nashawn Wright. First off, jumps the route on Justin Jefferson. And I mean, he read it perfectly. And fun fact about that too, Nashawn Wright hit the top speed in week 1, 21.6 something miles per hour, fastest player on the field in week 1. So cool to see, but he jumped that ball perfectly. And that's when you really felt like, okay, one more drive for this offense and one more stop for this defense, and our foot is on their throat. And that all relates back to that play where I'm talking about the key moment of that 50-yard field goal. That's when it was 17-6. And same with that holding call. That's when it really could have been at least 20-6, if not 24-6. And at that point, the Minnesota Vikings are about to start doing some things to get desperate because it would have been a 3-possession game. But offense failed to capitalize, whether that was penalties, just not executing, missing throws. That's what it comes down to. Stop
Let's
shaking
call it.
your stop
Let's
shaking your head.
call it
He
how it
missed.
is.
Caleb missed one on that drive.
No,
Hold on, Dad. On that drive specifically, when it's 17-6 and we're driving down the field and we're in the red zone, it is 17-6. Caleb missed Cole Kmet. That's the only throw he missed on that drive to get him there. He also made a great dump off to DeAndre Swift where we're on the 9-yard line, and here comes a phantom holding call that doesn't even exist. I'm calling it what it is on that specific drive. He missed one throw. The other one was a phantom holding call, the intentional grounding where I still think Caleb tried to make a great play. The unfortunate part about that is he hopped over his lineman. It got the back end of his foot, and he is falling, and he does try to at least, get the ball. And unfortunately, it is an intentional grounding, but it is what it is. We'll get to that.
can I
Another,
talk about one more thing with the defense?
well, yeah, I was going to go down a couple more stats, but go ahead.
I
Yeah.
no stat, just a personal opinion and observation. Love the defense, I already said, so I'm not gonna, poo-poo on any of that. Brisker, we know he's a concussion waiting to happen. I appreciate his passion, but that guy puts himself in too many plays that are already dead. Like, they've already been tackled, they're on the ground, someone else has got him, and he comes flying in with his head. He's 2 or 3 games away from another concussion. He isn't playing smart football with his current status of his head, and I get it, right? It's go, go, go till the whistle blows, but you gotta have a little bit of common sense, and maybe the concussions have eliminated some of that. But when the guy's already on the ground and you got 2 other Bears players on him, you don't need to put yourself in the pile, and potentially risk injuring yourself again, and then we have 4 or 5 players out on the defense. So, I just wanted to throw that in, and I know we talked about it while we're watching the game, um, but come on, just
You gotta,
play
yeah,
smarter.
you gotta let, I'm a firm believer when you're an athlete. I played in college. When you're competitive, and Jaquan Brisker said it himself. He loves football. He's not going to do anything different. He loves playing out there hard and fast. And the thing that most people don't understand about athletes is you go out there and change things and try to change how you play, and that's when you make mistakes or you're a step behind. You got to go out there full speed every play. And I get it. He can be a little bit more careful, but there was plenty of times in the game too, though. I remember one specifically where Aaron Jones was already wrapped up, and Jaquan did come in there and he put his helmet right on that football. And props to Aaron Jones for holding on to it. But you know, when he's being that aggressive and the ball comes out, you ain't going to be complaining then that he's coming flying downhill. So it's a double edged sword,
Just
and
looking at the team.
I hear you, but at the same time, I'd rather I love Jaquan flying around out there playing ball. It's who he is. There's no need to change it. That's what makes him such a good safety in the league. He's out there flying around and he hits like a linebacker. Um, I absolutely love it. The guy is a headhunter, and let him be a headhunter. It's who he is, and you're not going to change that from him. He loves playing hard. Um, but I did want to touch on one more other play. Uh, the fourth quarter, 2:59 left in the game. The Vikings had the lead 20-17 at this time. It is a huge 3rd and 1 on the Bears 13-yard line. This is a great play call by Kevin O'Connell that kind of, broke the straw on the camel's back. He all game, no read options. It's just run, pass, run, pass. And what does Kevin O'Connell save for last? A perfect play that most people forget. JJ McCarthy did this a lot in college with the RPO, or not RPO, the read option. They get our DNs to bite on the fake handoff. JJ McCarthy pulls it, 13-yard touchdown game. Vikings go up 27-17. That kind of felt like the nail in the coffin. It was a 3rd and 1. Like I said, at that time, 2:59 left in the game. We stop them. It's 4th down, and then all of a sudden they kick a field goal because they're like, let's at least take the touchdown lead. Then we get, the timeout still and a 2-minute warning, probably with about, 2:40, 2:45 to go drive down the field. And that's plenty of time in the NFL. But that props to Kevin O'Connell. We'll get into the coaching later too. I do think, that second half and, just over analyzing the whole game. I said it in our preseason predictions on our first episode. I think Kevin O'Connell is the best head coach in this division. Granted, we haven't seen Ben Johnson head coach a full season, but Kevin O'Connell's he's a master, man. Like that what a perfect play call. I got to tip my cap. I said it during the game. I'm like, what a play call. JJ McCarthy did that all the time in college, and he didn't show it all game, but in the biggest play of the game, 3rd and 1, puts in the hands of his rookie, and he goes and capitalizes and runs that ball in the end zone. But just some other key plays I wanted to talk about too with the defense, where I thought, first 2-point conversion, this was when it was 17-12. The Vikings were going for 2 to try to make it a 3-point game. Here's another call that is really questionable, and even the announcers on the game too, they called a hands to face on Dio Adengbo, who in the game, me and you looked at each other like, is that a hold? Flag? Then the flag comes out. We're like, yes. No, the flag's on Dio Adengbo. They call hands to the face. Show the replay. His hands at his chest plate right here on his neck, which is not a penalty. The announcer said, hands to the face. You got to be touching some part of the helmet, and his hand never did. Bad call. They get to accept the penalty, move the ball to the 1-yard line. It's an easy, 2-point conversion. They run a play action boot. The tight end, Cam Oliver for the Vikings, is wide open, and we're like, oh, great, 3-point game. Well, here comes Jonathan Owens flying across the field, diving tackle at his knees, make sure to grab him so he can't really extend the ball to. Doesn't get the 2-point conversion. I mean, the defense showed up, man. They did. And you can get mad about all the points in the fourth quarter, which it was 21, but at the same time, that's our offense's fault. And we're
Yep.
about to hop right into that. But these 3-and-outs, you can't happen. This is what happens to our defense, because the whole game we had everything locked up. No run game was happening. Yeah, Jordan Mason was getting 5 yards here and there early, but nothing crazy. The pass game was almost non-existent. And then all of a sudden you're having 4 to 5 and 6 3-and-outs in the second half, and our defense is winded. So with that, I'll kind of just read the offensive stats and then let you go give your feedback. I'm sure we're in for a rough one. But I will just start with the offense. My overall, like I said, first half, there's definitely points left on the board in the first half, but for the majority of the part, I did feel like the offense played well. But like I said, they definitely need to capitalize on some more points, especially with the 3-and-outs we were making the Vikings have. Our offense needs to help our defense out and go make some plays. But we'll start with Caleb Williams, 21 for 35 or 21 for 35 on the attempts, 210 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. He did take 2 sacks, avoided 12 of them, 6 rushes for 58 yards. And over to the running backs, DeAndre Swift, 17 carries, 53 yards. DJ Moore, 3 carries, 8 yards. Um, cool little stat too. Not that it really matters because we lost the game, but 8 different receivers caught the ball. Ball was at least getting distributed, but I'll let you take it away. Go ahead. Here comes the Caleb Williams hate session. Let's hear
No hate, no hate. I just wanna get in my DeLorean, call me Marty McFly, and I wanna go back to when we drafted Caleb Williams.
it.
And you know what I wanna do? I wanna draft him because I think he's got talent, right? He's proven it, USC, Heisman Trophy winner, but I wanna keep Fields. Let Williams sit on the bench for a year. Let maybe 2 years. I don't care. Look at some of the great quarterbacks out there. Jordan Love, how many years did he sit on the bench behind Aaron Rodgers?
3 years, I believe. Yeah, and he started his
Sit there
fourth year. Yeah.
sit sits there and learns, right? Watches, sees what happened, understands the game, how the game plays out, what happens in different situations. Look at JJ McCarthy. He didn't play his first year. He sat and
Wow, because
watched.
he had an injury. He was going to be their starter. He
I'm
was
just
he
saying,
was their starter. He was going to
had
play.
had a year to sit and watch. And you look at a lot of the other ones out there that are drafted, they get that year or 2 to watch, and then they get to play. Should have kept Fields regardless of all the controversy. Let him play. Let Caleb learn, develop him. Granted, that coaching staff last year wouldn't develop
I was
him.
about to say that would have ruined
Although
him, but
I don't know how preseason went either with developing either with all the false starts we had. But that's my big ask. Like, why don't we do that? Now we got Caleb. Everyone's talking about, well, he's been through four offensive coordinators. He's learning the game. It's really his rookie year. I'm tired of the excuses, honestly, right? When you come out and people call you generational talent and you're drafted number 1 overall, I wanna see number 1 overall performance. And that first drive, 10 for 10, that was what I was expecting. That's what I should be able to expect from a quarterback who's drafted number 1 overall, who is called generational talent. But then from there, it all starts falling apart, right? The wheels start falling off the wagon. We're making some questionable plays. We're happy feet in the pocket. We're moving all around. Really, really disappointed with the rest of the game after that 10 for 10 drive. Because in reality, that game probably by halftime probably should have been 34-6 with as many drives as we had down the field, or not that we didn't have them down the field. We stalled out with the 3 and outs, or um, some of the crazy stuff that went down, especially like what was it, fourth and 3,
yeah,
the DJ Moore pass.
that one was brutal.
I mean, who was he throwing it to? I don't know, but DJ Moore's wide open.
It was thrown to DJ Moore, and he overthrew him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who was he throwing it to? I knew who it was supposed to go to. I think
Yeah,
everyone watching on national television knew who the ball was supposed to go to. Unfortunately, the quarterback didn't know, or he can't get it there. And he's had these accuracy issues in the past. This isn't the
yeah,
first game from him where he's had accuracy issues. And so, I just there's got to be a better way. I mean, we've went through so many quarterbacks with this team. Here we are thinking we got Ben Johnson, the quarterback whisperer, and apparently he didn't whisper, quiet enough into his ear to get him to do that. And there's some other things I'd like to talk about with him, but I know you don't want to. I don't. You don't want to get into that about some of those things, but we
no, we
won't do
can
that for
definitely
the
get
show.
into it. We can definitely get into it. I know where you're going, and I'm not opposed to it if it keeps looking like this down the line. Um, but just from my standpoint of it, opening drive 6 for 6. I think it was about 56 yards, and then obviously the rushing touchdown to cap it off. Continued that same thing in that second drive. That's where he completed 4 more, and he was at that 10 for 10. And um, ultimately, the false starts on that drive, and that was the same drive where it was 4th and 3. And, um, it just it was a hard pill to swallow as the game went on, and seeing it. And like you talked about with the accuracy, it's the thing that's weird about it is it's always been the deep ball accuracy, not the short intermediate throws. He's usually money with those. So it was really frustrating to see those slant routes, especially. I know Cole Kmet's was like a post, but DJ's was just a quick, 10-yard slant. And to see that happen where first off, DJ can't even get a hand on the ball. It's just I don't know how you miss throws like that, especially, that's why at that point in the game too, right before that fourth down, he was 10 for 10. I think he had 96 yards and the 4th and 3 big play. I think at that point we're on like their 20 or 19-yard line. He catches that. We're, first and goal. And Caleb just his first incompletion comes at a big point in the game to DJ Moore, and there's no excuses for it. You're an NFL quarterback, like you said, first overall pick. You got to put the ball on it, especially a slant. That's a day one route. It's not that hard of a throw. You work on those timings all the time. And for whatever reason, he couldn't get it there. And, it's one thing to have one of them, it's another thing to have multiple. Like we said, Caleb even addressed in his press conference after the game yesterday. He said he confirmed that 2 plays where he overthrew and let the ball got ahead of him is both of those plays. The one to Cole Kmet, that was on that crucial drive when it was 17-6, and that one to DJ Moore on 4th and 3. And I don't blame Ben Johnson. I know there's a lot of people out there, saying, why do you go for it? Just take the points. Yeah, that's hindsight. Yeah, we didn't convert the fourth down, kick the points. If you know Ben Johnson and you know the Lions, what did he do? He goes for it on fourth down and he puts his throat, he puts his foot on the throat and makes, people be like, come on. It's just demoralizing when a team converts a fourth down.
I
And
do
the
want to
best,
talk about that.
yeah, but
You s-
let's
no,
relax
no,
for.
it's no, because it's
Oh,
about the Lions. You said he was with the Lions, and that's what they would do, right? And what's one of the things Ben Johnson said to us? I'm not bringing the Lions offense to the Bears. I'm catering an offense around the Bears. And quite honestly, I get it. Sometimes the analytics say go for it on fourth down, depending on field position and things that are going on in the game. But how many times has Dan Campbell made it to the big game and goes for it on the fourth down and misses and costs him Super Bowl runs? And why would you take those same bad habits and bring them here to the Bears? And in game one, week one, here we are, fourth down, and we don't convert. Like, and granted, he's the coach. He can't go out there and play the game for the quarterback. But
I was about to say he drew up a perfect play and it wasn't
the
executed.
play was perfect. The quarterback didn't execute the play.
Exactly. So it's like that there's a bunch of fans out there on social media saying just take the points. He's establishing his identity. If you think Dan Campbell was the one saying go for it on fourth down, yeah, he had the final say. It was probably in his ear saying we gotta play for this. We gotta play. It was Ben Johnson. And I'd rather do that too. I get it, take the 3 points because like you said, maybe this 3 points could have, sent us to overtime. And like I said, it's all hindsight. This is little
And it
stuff.
doesn't change the momentum of the game.
Yeah, it's just I mean, that was early in the game. That was in the first quarter when that happened. The momentum doesn't really. I get it. Yes, no, whatever. But the play call was there. It comes down to executing the play. And maybe to your point, where I can meet you in the middle is maybe Ben Johnson needs to take a step back for a second and realize, this isn't Jared Goff that's mastered his system. Caleb's still learning it. And maybe for now, you kind of got to settle with, taking what's there. 4th and 1, maybe it's a little bit different. 4th and 3, maybe just take the points, especially early in a game, your first game as head coach. Settle in, take the points. But at the same time, it is also week one. He's trying to establish his identity. And, one thing I can respect about a coach is someone who's going to stay true to that and not veer off because it didn't work one time. Um, I, I have no problem with him going for it. That was his decision in the game. However, my only, cutback I will say on that is, and Ben Johnson did admit this is something he's got to work on. And this is another reason, why Ben Johnson's here. We're looking, game one, things go wrong, adversity. We're already seeing accountability from him. in his press conference afterwards and this morning. He said he had trouble getting that fourth down play in to Caleb, and that's what caused him having to burn the timeout. He didn't have the play fast enough. That's accountability. When last time ever did we hear Matt Eberflus, even in the Commanders game, all those no, that's what we wanted to do. Never any accountability. In game one, Ben Johnson's faced with the adversity. He got the boos from Chicago after the game, and he took accountability. He took it on the chin, and he's going to bounce back. I, I just, I have no problem with that fourth down decision. I really don't. It comes down to executing the play. It was it'd be one thing he called some Shane Waldron fourth and goal, and we're calling a pitch play to the outside. It's different if it's something like that. Then you can look at it and be like, what the hell are you doing? But at the same time, the play he's called worked. And that's where we can go into my next point of, the concerns about Caleb Williams after that 10 for 10 start. I watched this all 22 right before this episode, got about 75% through it before I had to just turn it off. And
Was that because you were sick?
it's been a long day, I just, all off season waiting for Bears football, looking for a change, and it looked like a change for 3/4 of the game, and that last quarter was right back to Bears football we've been used to for a while. But, anyways, it's the thing is, one positive I will give Caleb, and people are now calling him check down Caleb, check down Caleb. When all last year the biggest criticism is Caleb doesn't throw the check down, he tries to do too much. Well, now he does a check down and you guys want to all scream and yell at him. You pick a side. The thing is, I will say the first two drives he did it beautifully. When the check down was there, he threw it, let his go players make yards, and they picked up first downs. Now I will say as the game went on, probably Brian Flores, the great defensive mind he is, started bringing pressure, started changing different looks. And that's when Caleb really started to struggle. And the checkdowns got a lot more tighter where they needed to be a lot more tighter throws. And even if the throw was there, it would have been 3 2-yard gains. They wouldn't have been the 6 to 7-yard gains we were seeing early in the game. But there were a couple of the checkdowns where he did complete where there would be a route open deeper down the field. And, that could be, whether that's Caleb, just in his head ingrained, I need to get the ball out. Ben Johnson maybe telling him, take the easy ball, whatever it may be. But at the same time, I do agree he's got to cut it loose. If it's there, if the bigger play's there, cut it loose,
Sling it.
man. You got a great arm, and I think he might be doing a little second guessing, and maybe part of the past regime of that was his biggest thing last year. Yeah, he only had 6 interceptions last year, but that's because he never took, chances of throwing these, not dangerous balls, but, taking a 50-50 chance. And I hope that's still not ingrained in his head. Like, cut the ball loose. I'd rather see him cut this ball loose. And, as much as I don't want to see an interception, I mean, like yesterday, like we didn't really see too many balls deep downfield. Now, he did the good thing that I will say on that all 22, it was like it was a second drive of the game. It was the same play. DJ Moore ran that post where he threw it to the flat instead when he could have had an easy shot to DJ for about a 20-yard gain, didn't throw it. Next drive, they come back to the same play and he throws the ball to DJ, perfect layered over the cornerback underneath the safety, right in the hole. So those are encouraging things to see, but that was probably his biggest pass play of the game. And outside of that, it was a lot of 5-10-yard throws and letting the receivers do the work, which I know that is a big part of Ben Johnson's offense, but another big part of the offense too is getting those intermediate throws over the middle. You saw it a lot with Detroit last year where there's a bunch of guys crossing, and next thing you know, there's a guy running free after he catches the ball. So definitely want to see a lot more of that. But watching the all 22, there was Ben Johnson called a good game. It wasn't people weren't getting open, receivers weren't getting separation. There was plays to be made, and Caleb ultimately didn't make those plays. And the way he started the game, I would have never predicted this is the way it would have ended because he looked on fire in the first half. for the first quarter, I'll say. In the second quarter, started slowing down. But I mean, he was 13 for 16 at halftime, 140 something yards and a tutty run. And like I said, other points, left on the board where I feel like Caleb let the offense down in the second half. I do feel, the false starts and holding calls kind of let Caleb down in the first half because he was in that rhythm. It's a little bit of both, but the second half is unacceptable from Caleb. There's no excuses to it. I'm a Caleb Williams guy, through and through. And it was just that second half is inexcusable. Too many, you know, missed opportunities. And eventually it got to a point where it just looked like every ball was in the flat. And it wasn't anything, getting stretched down the field until we had to. And what happened? We scored a touchdown. The craziest part is I remember watching the game. All of a sudden it turns off. We turn the game back on and we thought the game was over. And we look and they're in the red zone already. And I went back and watched it. He threw a nice seam ball right over the middle to Cole Kmet. And Cole Kmet, yeah, he made a one-handed catch, but he threw it right in between the backer, right over the safety, kind of like we saw against the Bills and that opening drive in the preseason. Beautiful ball to him. And then next play, they throw a fade ball to DJ Moore, who slips through the coverage and is wide open. And I've seen a little bit of debate on Twitter. DJ Moore does kind of get through and put his hands up and kind of slow down his route, and the ball ends up being like a 5-yard overthrow. But at the same time, the ball did land right at the out of bounds white line. But at the same time, these receivers are 6 foot, whatever. That ball probably is perfect, but still, as wide open as it was, it should have just been, floated up to him, let him just make the catch. That safety was crashing down hard, so it could have been one of those where he lofts it and then the safety comes underneath and picks it. So, but he's got to hit those plays. You know, another is, as bad as Caleb played, this defense is good. No excuses though. And now he's got another defense who, they're going to be hungry too. They just got their ass beat by the Packers. And if you think they're letting you come into their home field and they don't got anything on their shoulder after that Packers loss. Not only that, they got Ben Johnson coming back to town. They are going to be hungry to get after Caleb, especially after seeing this performance. And I think the one thing I'm seeing where that's getting Caleb, where you start to see these struggles, that first 2 drives, Brian Flores, for whatever reason, whether he was trying to trick Ben Johnson, because Brian Flores usually blitz every play. He blitzes every play. For whatever reason, he was only rushing forward, dropping everyone back those first 2 drives, and Caleb was picking them apart. He was getting those passes, finding the gaps, extending plays with his legs, and then the pressure started coming. Brian Flores said, all right, he can make the plays, with no pressure. Let's start doing my defense. And he started sending guys, and that's where you kind of started to see things kind of drift off. And if I'm the Lions, I mean, I think the key to, getting to Caleb, I think that's one thing he's still struggling with is that blitz. And when those extra guys are coming, that's where he does get those happy feet. But even, on the breakdown, shout out to the QB school with Tim Jenkins. He, his feet were pretty calm in the pocket. Even he mentioned it. He doesn't think his eyes were in the right places at certain times or getting off of reads too fast before they develop. But for the most part, he was staying in that pocket. Yeah, when it was time to go try to make a play, he went and made a play. And a lot of people too criticize Caleb. Stop running around. Stop running around. I know we talked about this earlier today too. It's a double-edged sword because that whole first drive where they went down there and scored, it was Caleb extending a lot of plays and making his magic happen. You're going to live and die by it. It's who he is. It's the same thing with the Josh Allen, Lamar Jacksons. You saw Lamar too run around, take a dumb sack. It's part of these quarterbacks that can make plays with their legs. They're
He
going to
makes some
have
of his best plays when he's running around.
I
I
was
mean,
about
that pass to Doomsday was amazing.
I was about to say, like, there's plays that, they're gonna be good and they're gonna be bad, but I'll take this. A majority of times, those plays where he's scrambling are good plays. It's just now trying to find a balance of it and, kind of like that intentional grounding. Granted, I don't think he thought he was gonna trip over his own lineman, but, that's kind of stuff that you just got to be careful with when you're trying to get free out of that chaotic pocket when it's collapsing. Um, but definitely need to see improvement for Caleb Williams. I'm okay jumping into this topic. I know where you want to go with this. I'll ask the hypothetical question because I know this is where you're going. Let's say it continues down this pace to week 6. Does Ben Johnson pull the trigger?
So I want to lead with my 15-2 may be in the wrong order.
Yeah, it's like
It
someone told you that you needed to slow
it
down
may
a little
be
bit.
2-15. I have a big fear based on all the week 1 games I watched this weekend, as well as you watched. We might be 0-5, and I think we go bye week. You come back, the 6th, it was 6th week, yeah, that'll be our 0-5, right? Um, I think on the bye week, he gets told that, we need to see some change, and if we don't see it, we're gonna let you sit and watch.
We better
Um,
not lose week 6 because you can keep talking, but I'm pretty sure
that should be the
there's
Commanders game.
nope, that is not. That will be oh yeah, you're right. That is the Commanders game.
Yeah. So, I think everyone's going to Vegas who bought those tickets to go there, thought that was gonna be an easy dub on the schedule, and, there's whispers of Pete Carroll after week 1 being in the running for, coach of the year, or at least mentioned in that conversation. So that's gonna be a tough game now. We know the Lions game's gonna be tough. I think if we're 0-4 going into the bye week, there's some tough accountability conversations. And if that Commanders game isn't going well, I think you see the worst happen for a young quarterback that he gets put on the bench, and you see Tyson come in. And unfortunately, as a Bears fan forever, the backup QB is always the favorite QB, right? Until they come in. But it has been talked about and it has been seen. Tyson seems to be able to manage that offense a little bit better with the scheme that Ben Johnson's trying to run during the preseason. So I would guess by Ben Johnson's facial expressions during the game, and pending on how far this loss run goes, we may see week 6 Tyson Bagent come in and play in the game.
I will say I'm not that far ready to jump on that, but I will say I will not be surprised that if it does continue down this road, I still think Caleb's the guy, don't get me wrong, but if it continues down this road, if there's one coach that's not afraid to pull the plug, it's Ben Johnson. They gave Tyson Bagent a 2-year extension for a reason. On top of that, Ben Johnson has raved about how Tyson Bagent, they think alike, they see things the same way, and he loves the way Tyson Bagent goes about his business. So it's a wait and see. Obviously, no Bears fan should be rooting for this, but if it
Mhm.
happens, we should have full faith in Tyson, just the way Ben Johnson talks about him. I don't even want to spend too much time on it, but it's definitely you can't avoid it, but it is a little ridiculous to go in depth about it after one game. Um, Especially, I think people, I said it, in our preseason prediction show, before the season started. Kevin O'Connell is a great coach, man. I think he's the best head coach in this division. He always gets these quarterbacks that, aren't the most favorited and gets them to go out there and play the best ball that, they played. And on top of that, their defense, it's loaded, man. Like they don't got any top, crazy names, but they all play together, they blitz and they bring the pressure. And there's a reason, you know, what I think makes a good head coach is, someone out there that, even when they're facing adversity can somehow find a way to win. And I know there's a crazy, I don't know the top of the stat off my line, but ever since Kevin O'Connell's been there in the 1-score games, he is way favorited. The Vikings have a way positive record. Like I think it's like something crazy, like 18-3 or something in one possession games. Like This guy finds a way to win, and this Vikings team, since Kevin O'Connell's been there, have been a good team. They just never can get over that playoff hump. Once the games, the big games start mattering. But um, it was a good test for week one. Great start, terrible finish. We move on to the next game, but this is going to be a big game coming up against the Lions. We will have our pregame show, but both teams in the division coming in 0-1. Someone's going to be staring down 0-2 down the barrel, and it could get scary for either of the teams. The Bears being the Bears, who starting 0-2 is about setting the city on fire, and for the Lions, it's they lost Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and if they're staring 0-2 down the barrel, and with their schedule from finishing first place in the division, they do not have an easy schedule or favorable. And if they lose this game to the Bears as well, it's going to be tough sledding for them too. Um, I might even say this: I feel like whoever loses this game might get last place in the division. Like this 0-2 start, it can hurt a lot of teams. Like it really could start to creep in. For the Bears, it could creep in like, oh no, it's back to last year. We can't find a way to win. And for the Lions, it's the Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are gone now, and we can't seem to win a football game. That thought starts to creep in. But we need a bounce back game this week. I still got confidence at, this first 24 hours. It was definitely, hard pill to swallow, just with, that game should have been won 34-20, something along those lines. It was so good until it wasn't. It hurts, man. It hurts me bad. I don't know. It sucks, but it's a long season, and I'm excited. At the end of the day, I love watching my Bears, even though they put me through pain. It's still fun to watch, and I'll cheer them on no matter what. Just hoping for a bounce back this week.
I hear that. I share that same sentiment, but I don't feel real confident on a Tuesday after a Monday night game and witnessing what we witnessed. So with that, I think we wrap it up. If you enjoyed the content, give a thumbs up, a like, a share, subscribe, especially if you made it this far. Lordy mercy, it was a long one, but there was a lot to talk about. So, Bill, I'll give it over to you for the closing.
Yeah, no. Positive thoughts going into week two. New week. The game's over. Put it behind us. Let's go. Bears had an off day today to rest up, and tomorrow they're right back in the lab game planning for Ben Johnson's return to Detroit. We will catch you this Sunday with a pregame matchup report. The Bears play 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central. We will try to get that episode out about 10:30, 11 before the game, so you guys can catch it in the morning before the game officially gets underway. And we will do a post-game show. This one, was a day later just due to the night game, but we should have that post-game show out to you sometime in the afternoon, 5, 6 o'clock Eastern time, with the post-game thoughts on hopefully a Bears W. But like you said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check us out in our socials in our description. Um, but that will do it for now.
Bear
Bear down.
down.